Thank
So
you.
now we're ready for our first panel, which is going to be led by Michele Siekerka. So Michele has been the president and CEO at the New Jersey Business and Industry Association since 2014. She's an attorney by trade and is also a SheTek Power Team member. Michelle's held prior positions as the Deputy Commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, Assistant Commissioner for Water Resources Management, and was also the president and CEO of the Mercer Regional Chamber of Commerce, and a lot more. All of her details are on our website. So with that, Michele, I'd like to welcome you to our event.
Thanks so much, and good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. Now, let me just give a caveat up front that weather conditions today, having been what they were, I got a couple of unsteady, insecure connectivity notes earlier today. So if I go off camera, it's because I'm trying not to lose my connection today. I'd like to introduce our panel, and we're going to have an wonderful Q&A with this incredibly awesome and smart group on workforce challenges facing us today. The screen I'm looking at right now shows our panelists, but it looks like one picture might be missing unless it's just the way my picture is showing up here. But joining us today is Leslie Hirsch, who is the Assistant Commissioner of Research and Information in the New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Development, Judy Savage, the Senior Consultant at New Jersey Council of County Vocational and Technical Schools, Aaron Fickner, who's the president of the New Jersey Council of County Colleges, and our own at NJBIA, Chrissy Butis, who's the Chief Government Affairs Officer. So I'm not sure if you're seeing Chrissy's picture, but Chrissy is on our panel as well today too. So I just want to set the stage for literally 30 seconds. Today we find ourselves, as we all know, in incredibly unprecedented times. And the workforce challenges and future of work are issues that are front and center every single day. And they affect each and every one of us, no matter what stage of our career or future career that we are in. Today, we're going to talk about some of these challenges. And I just want to lay out in a big scheme some of the challenges facing us today in this space. Hiring and retention crisis of significant proportion. Highly disparate impact on working moms and minority women due to child care crisis that's taking place at the exact same time. I don't think it's any surprise, and many have heard that across the board, the female labor force has been disproportionately affected during COVID. And in fact, it's sad to report that the female labor force participation is at its lowest in over 3 decades. I don't need to tell you the systemic impact that that's going to have as we go forward, right? Technical skills that are in demand today, including the rise of the data-driven economy throughout the labor market, and the fact that the 4th technological revolution has arrived a few years earlier than we were anticipating it to. All the jobs today have a tech aspect to them, driving the need to reskill and upskill like never before. And we have new titles that didn't exist before. We're trying to educate a workforce on jobs for the future that don't exist yet today. And while at the same time, tech roles are growing in demand, not just in the vertical field of technology, but across every type of job across the spectrum, technology is playing front and center. So with that, I'm going to turn to Leslie Hirsch and ask Leslie to kick us off. Leslie, how would you describe the tech labor market ecosystem as it exists in New Jersey today? And how has COVID shifted the tech marketplace?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. As you know, I like to refer to the tech ecosystem as being sort of in three columns. There are tech jobs, and tech jobs, when I think of a tech job, I'm thinking of basically computer related jobs. So tech jobs can be in tech industries like data processing or systems design or computer manufacturing, software publishing, and so forth. So you have tech jobs in tech industries, then you have tech jobs in non-tech industries, which is what you were referring to. So there are tech jobs everywhere, obviously. So, and in particular, they are in the professional services in New Jersey. So that means, banking, credit card companies, but it's also in healthcare, just about everywhere you want to look. And then the third would be non-tech jobs that are in tech companies. So project managers, operations specialists, business analysts. I'm trying to think of what else we would see. These are, people who are not necessarily tech savvy, but are good project managers and can interact with customers. So roughly, I would say all told, The actual biggest part would be the non-tech jobs in tech industries, about 200,000, 150,000 tech jobs in non-tech industries, and about 115,000 tech jobs in tech industries. And so how has it shifted? I would say, and I bet everybody on this could probably say it right alongside with me. Digital skills are front and center. So e-commerce grew 3 times faster in the US than it had in the previous year. So in 2020, it was 3 times faster it grew than in 2019. Certainly automation has taken root, particularly in places where people were working close to one another, or people were doing rote or routine work. So automation is super important. And then data, which has been, again, part of a long secular trend, but just all of it just got faster during COVID. As you said, the fourth industrial revolution happened during COVID.
Thanks, Leslie. And we're showing some data up on the screen. We're going to see if we can get this as a link to put in the chat as well. You were gracious enough to send along some really great background data that we'd like to share with participants today. So we're going to work on getting that up in the chat as well.
Great.
Chrissy, I'm going to move over to you, and I'm going to ask you to talk about Focus New Jersey's study on the future of work. In that study, Focus New Jersey highlighted the increasing prevalence of tech-centric skill sets across industries. Can you tell us about the report and some of its findings?
Yeah, thank you, Michelle, and thank you for having me. And hello to all of my colleagues who I have the pleasure of working with on a daily basis. Michelle, you hit the nail on the head here. NJBIA and Focus New Jersey have really leaned into this critical issue of enhancing our workforce. We have heard through various studies and surveys that we've done that tech-related jobs are clearly in demand and have only grown over recent years. And in fact, we have also heard from our employer community that those skill sets need to continue to be enhanced as we move forward. So to really take a deep dive into this, Focus New Jersey, NJBIA's not-for-profit research institution, really focusing on workforce development, convened a study of over 100 stakeholders from academia, as well as business, our government officials and collaborators, to really look at what are those skill sets for the future, and really examined those in about 8 different critical industries. But what we found is that there is an increased prevalence of tech-centric skill sets that are needed across all of those industries. So specifically, as Leslie mentioned, skills in artificial intelligence and computer modeling, data science, kept popping up. And again, this isn't just for Silicon Valley, but for our employers right here in the state of New Jersey. Furthermore, what we found was that the World Economic Forum was estimating that at least 54% of the global workforce would require some upskilling by the year 2022. And boy, we are just around the corner from 2022 at this point in time. And as Michelle mentioned, COVID has certainly accelerated that need even in twofold. And the report also notes that 75 million jobs worldwide are being replaced by new or advanced technologies, and that all of these jobs are going to be needed in high skill areas. And so to Leslie's point, I think the statistics really do speak for themselves. And from Focus New Jersey, as well as NJBIA's perspective, we want to make sure that our employers have employees that are skilled for the future, and that we are working across academia, business, as well as all of our other government partners to make sure that we have the workforce for the future. So the statistics are pretty staggering.
Yeah, they are staggering. Tell quite a story. And so now that we have a little bit of a sense of what we're dealing with on the demand side, if you will, right? What's being demanded out in the workforce for the future of work, I want to turn to the supply side, if you will, those that are trying to provide that upskilling and that reskilling. And Aaron, I'm going to turn to you first. How are our state's community colleges stepping in to address the current workforce skills shifts and gaps that we're experiencing today?
Thanks, Michelle, for that question. And it's an honor to be on this panel with such incredible colleagues. And I think Leslie and Chrissy did an amazing job setting up the challenges that we are facing as a state, with a rapidly changing economy, tech being infused in most occupations increasingly. And our 18 community colleges have really taken that to heart and are working very aggressively in a number of ways to make sure that we're preparing the workforce and providing opportunities to people to get the tech skills that they need. So a little bit of background, our 18 community colleges, obviously all over the entire state last year. Collectively, our colleges graduated about 800 people with certificates or degrees in information technology and technology-related fields. 4 of our colleges have real significant capacity with more than 50 graduates in information technology and technology-related fields. So our colleges have a real capacity to build on. And it's important, I think, to think about the different roles that community colleges play. And I think we really play 3 different roles. One is clearly community colleges are there for recent high school graduates who are transitioning into higher education and want to pursue an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. But we also serve adults who may not have achieved a post-secondary degree or credential, who want to come back to college to get on a path to a better career. And thirdly, and significantly, I think for this conversation, our colleges play an incredibly important role in being a place for lifelong learning for people who may have a college degree or may have had a career of some kind, but need to upskill and learn new skills. And so we are very committed in thinking about the wide array of programs that our colleges offer. So we're very excited this year to be launching a significant initiative in partnership with NJBIA and the vocational technical high schools and partners across the state, called Pathways to Career Opportunities, where with a significant investment of state funding from the state budget, we will be developing new curriculum and updated curriculum, working hand in hand with employers to understand the changing needs of the economy and to make sure that our programs are aligned with those needs. Information and technology, innovation technology is 1/4 of our initiative, focusing on that really important industry. And so we'll be setting up centers of excellence at our colleges, focusing on data analytics, cybersecurity, programming, and research and development, to work with employers to develop the new curriculum that will make sure that anyone who comes to a community college in a credit or non-credit program as a recent high school graduate or as a returning adult or an individual in need of upskilling will have the ability to get the skills that they need to get a better job and get a family supporting career. So we're really proud to be working with NJBIA and other partners to seize this opportunity to make sure that on the supply side, we are building the most skilled and productive and innovative workforce we possibly can in the country.
I appreciate that, Aaron, and BIA is very proud to work alongside of you on this incredibly important work. And you know, the whole idea of reskilling at the adult learner level is so significant right now, to create those opportunities to bring back all those folks that are sitting out on the sidelines right now. And we're going to come back to talk about them a little bit more again. But Judy, I want to drill down now to the career and technical education level. And I want to ask you, you know, how have our career and technical education institutions evolved, and do vocational schools offer many programs in STEM? I think there's just this perception still of, you know, of what VOTech was or is. I mean, tell us how sophisticated these institutions have become and what tremendous opportunities there are for our K-12 students.
Sure, great. Thank you, Michelle. And it's great to be with everybody today to see you all. So Michelle, as usual, you're right on point with that question. And county vocational schools have evolved tremendously over the past 10 to 15 years. And really, the focus is no longer just on preparing students for a single job after high school, but rather on preparing students for a lifelong career pathway. And they have evolved in, you know, as our economy has changed and tech has become front and center in the economy, it's also become front and center in what county vocational schools teach and how they teach it. So today, of course, our county vocational schools still prepare students for the trades, for automotive, for culinary careers and others, but there's a really broad range of STEM and information technology programs as well, including a number of specialized career academies, which are standalone schools, like an Academy for Information Technology in Union County, or a Computer Science Academy in Hunterdon County, or a STEM Academy with a computer science track in Passaic County. And really what the programs do is give students a foundational understanding of all aspects of technology jobs. So they're exposed to programming, to cybersecurity, to web development, to data science, and even to entrepreneurship throughout these programs. They have some opportunities to earn some college credits even while they're in high school. They earn industry credentials such as from CompTIA. And they also hopefully gain some real world work experience, either through an internship with employers, or even sometimes they work for the school themselves on information technology projects. And so what they complete high school with is a real understanding of where they want to go with technology. And they have already a significant jumpstart in higher education. The programs are in really high demand. And the great news is that female enrollment in these programs is really strong. So while I understand that getting more women into tech at the employment level and even at the higher ed level is somewhat of a challenge, our schools are doing really well in recruiting women into, young women into these programs at the high school level. And that will help to build the pipeline of women in tech going forward, because they will be ready to, they'll be ready to succeed when they get to college.
Yeah, I think it's incredible when you go back and you look now, relative to when, I was coming up through K-12, which was just a few years ago. But, it is such a different dynamic in terms of young women's interest in this space. I think the data, I don't think we've caught up totally, right? But I do think there's been a lot of movement of seeing young women being encouraged and inspired to go into the STEM fields. And there's so much more support for these programs within our institutions, but also surrounding our institutions, programs. And here you go, like, SheTek and what they're doing, to attract women in, and these could be women already in career reskilling, but I think of other programs like, Junior Achievement and what they're doing to bring cybersecurity, to the forefront for young girls. And then I hear the stories of these young women who I deal with, many, many days, saying how they're so excited and they never thought that that would be something that they would do until they were introduced to it. It's pretty significant. And, what you do at that, again, younger level in order to have these young women gain visibility to the opportunity is really, really extraordinary. Leslie, I'm going to come back to you in a second, but I want to remind our audience, we have opportunity for Q&A. And I'm sure that many of you have questions out there about the things that our awesome panelists are talking about today. So please drop them in the chat box and I'll make sure that I deliver those to our panel for some input. Leslie, we've talked about the supply and we've talked about the demand. Now, how does this all translate relative to what it means for our economy? And what are some big takeaways in terms of issues we confront as a state relative to the tech ecosystem?
Thanks. Yeah. So I would say, in particular, I'm speaking to your members who are on the 71 participants who are on the phone on the web conference right now. Probably the most important thing that we confront as a state is the need to update our skills on a regular basis. So I think that those of you who are already in tech jobs know that a couple of years ago, you were doing one thing and now you're probably having to learn another. I think the expression that an awful lot of people refer to is the growth mindset. This idea that that you won't always be great at everything that you do, that you're going to have to learn. And I think being open to learn is going to be a really big challenge. And I think it will be a challenge also for our systems as well. So yeah, I think I had said to you earlier that the shelf life of skills is just, is just shortening every year that we pass. So 10 years ago, we didn't have an iOS developer. We didn't have a social media manager. We didn't have an AI an AI programmer or a data scientist. These are all completely new jobs. And the skills that are required in order to do them had to be developed in very quick time. So, we can always rely on the next generation of people who are coming up, but if you want to stay up to date, then you need to constantly be learning. I'd say the other big problem or big challenge that we have is around people who are in jobs now that are going away. So, particularly the ones that were affected by COVID, retail, food service in particular, but also, hotels and travel, people who are coming into close contact. A lot of those are just not going to come back, we think. When I say we, I mean economists pretty much around the country are not expecting all the low wage jobs to come back. So that is, again, the challenge of upskilling. And I think can't be underestimated. You didn't go into food service because you wanted to learn Python. So I think, there needs to be some kind of a greater understanding of what are the range of opportunities that are available. Like I said before, you don't have to be a programmer. You can be a project manager. You can be a UX designer. These are all, possible jobs, but people need to become aware of those. And, and then they have to be able to upskill into them. And then finally, I would say the really big one is around gender and racial equity in the tech world. And, even though you've made strides in New Jersey, I'm looking at a chart that I put together from 2019, which is the most recent census data that I have at the moment, showing that while women make up 47% of the workforce, they make up 20% of the tech jobs in tech industries. We do a little bit better in non-tech industries. We make up 26%, but that's still almost half of the workers. So, half of the representation in those jobs. We should be making up, at least our 47%. And then in terms of racial and ethnic diversity, we're really looking at 45 to 55% white, which is kind of what we have in the larger workforce. But what we end up having here is an underrepresentation of Black and Latinx workers. So we need, those CTE programs need to be reaching students of color in the high schools and introducing them early, and taking advantage of all of the great funding opportunities that we have for the community colleges and for training programs.
So we hear this continual trend of women leaving the workforce. You again echoed it. We said it before. We have a question in the chat here, a comment about, many have called this a she session, right? Mm-hmm. About the great quit here. What more though, and this is to women and to minority, and Aaron, maybe you want to start this, but what more can we do, whether it's through our state or businesses or our academic institutions? What more can we do to attract those that we want to see step more into this space in order to level out these trends?
So it's a really important question. And I think there's a variety of things that we can do and should do. One thing, I think conferences like this and the work of SheTek is critically important to setting the right tone of the importance of getting more women in tech jobs and addressing the equity issues that Leslie talked about earlier. I think some of it really involves starting earlier and building those pathways from middle school, so that we get students more interested in these fields earlier and that there's a clear pathway for them to transition. Judy talked about dual enrollment programs that get high school students on a path with support so that they can transition into college. But we clearly have to find ways to open up more opportunities for adults who are affected by the recession or people who have lost their jobs. Our workforce development programs are critically important partners. But I think we've got to find ways to work together in new ways between businesses, between community colleges, vocational technical high schools, Leslie and her colleagues at the Labor Department. And we're working towards doing that. It's going to take a whole bunch of new innovative thinking to address these pretty significant challenges.
Judy, staying on this issue of public-private partnership, there's a comment here saying, Some are afraid that there's just a huge disconnect between what is taught versus what is required. And we hear this all the time. I see folks shaking their head. We go to our businesses, Chrissy and I talk directly with our businesses, and they say we bring students in who are recent graduates, and then we have to train them because they don't have that skill set. At the community level, how are your districts identifying the trends and then marrying what the employer needs in order to develop programs to match the need?
So the involvement of businesses in career and technical education is absolutely critical, and it's foundational. And that NJBIA has done a phenomenal job of working with our schools, with other public high schools, with colleges to try to foster that. And it's something that we need to continually work at and develop even further, because, of course, our schools rely on the outstanding data that Leslie and her team at the Department of Labor put together, and that shows general trends. But educators are not industry experts. And so, and this really applies to every field. It applies to technology, but it also applies to, automotive repair and construction. Schools rely first and foremost on employers to get involved, to sit down with them, and to, really educate teachers and supervisors and other school staff about what are the specific skills that we need. So they have advisory boards and so forth, and they literally work with individual employers to develop curriculum and set their future direction. I think a really good example of this is around cybersecurity. Probably about 5 years ago, my colleagues at Morris County Schools of Technology were working with a couple of local employers, and as well as partners from the state of New Jersey, from the Cybersecurity Information Center. And they heard over and over, huge demand for professionals in cybersecurity. Nobody's training for this. We can't get people. Morris County School of Technology started a program together with County College of Morris. Students get a year of college credits. Something similar was just launched in Bergen County this year. And, even seeing that, hearing from other business partners, all of the schools with computer science programs have now incorporated a unit on cybersecurity because they heard exactly that from employers. This is now a foundational skill. We need you to teach it. Here's what it is.
So we've been talking about all these tech skills, which are forefront because of the role of technology across all media, no matter what industry we're talking about at all. Chrissy, though we talk all the time about the ability as part of our workforce skill set to be agile, to be flexible, to be creative, and et cetera, the role of quote unquote employability skills remains front and center as well. Good communication, critical thinking, self-directed. Can you discuss the role of those soft skills and again, how that plays into the workforce development aspect of preparing the future of work?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. We do focus a lot on what those technical aspects are, but really our employers have also stressed over these past few years the challenges with some recent graduates and folks entering into the workforce that don't have the critical thinking skills or the self-directedness that they need to be self-starters and such. And that's really interesting to us. I know it's deemed the term soft skills, but they're really essential skills and employability skills. And it really is shocking to hear from our employers at this point, because again, we have one of the top ranked educational institutions from K through 12 in the United States, always ranking in the top 1 to 3, that this continually comes up. So that focus on making sure that our graduates and those entering into the workforce have those employability skills is really going to be critical moving forward, because as we saw with COVID, we have to be even more adaptable. I think some of the things that I saw, Leslie, I put a link thinking about apprenticeships into the chat, and Judy touched on this as well, the need to continue to have experiential learning opportunities is going to be critical moving forward. Making sure that students are placed with employers while they're getting educated is really, I think, a smart move to see if there's a match there, to so the student also has an understanding of what skills are going to be needed, how they can better foster that while they're getting their education. I think is going to be really important. And there are a lot of different programs set up through the state as well as through the community colleges and the VOTEX to achieve this. And I think what was also touched on as well to increase our numbers into these critical fields is all the work like SheTek and also other not-for-profits really focusing on young women as well that are really leaning into this and making those opportunities available, and having women also step up to the plate and say, hey, this has been my experience. Here are some of the things I have learned, and really try to create that mentor-mentee relationship so that girls who are interested, if we're highlighting certain like young women, girls that are interested in middle school don't lose that interest as they go into high school, then transition into post-secondary. So again, back to your point though, Michelle, making sure we have well-rounded students and those entering into the workforce is really going to be critical. Again, as we're not only navigating an economy here in New Jersey and nationally, but internationally as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this constant state of disruption that we live in, what's required of us, our expectations for a job, our job descriptions change each and every day. Right. And our ability as humans and creatures of habit to be able to pivot so quickly, those foundational skills, you know, I always talk about the foundation, right? And all those things that Christy was just, if we have this strong foundation, we can take that and then we can move it from any vertical to any vertical, because those foundation skills afford us the opportunity to be able to best communicate and be creative in those other spaces and lean in. It's so critically important. We have a question here about the older workforce, and anybody who wants to jump in on this, you know, can you speak about opportunities for older workers who would like to retrain for the needs of the marketplace? And first, let me do like a huge shout out to SheTek, because at every level, SheTek is here to reskill women who never thought they'd go into this space before. So SheTek, you know, way to go. But who would like to comment on that?
Yeah, so I'll jump in. So our 18 community colleges across the entire state all have programs in the technology space that are non-credit programs that are aligned with industry need, that have been developed based on industry analysis and industry partnerships. And so we are committed in continuing to build out those programs, working with employers. But the diversity of non-credit credential-based programs that our colleges offer in this field is wide ranging. And so I would encourage anybody to go to our website, community college website, and get links to the websites of our colleges and look at the programs that they offer. And so that's a critical role that we play in community colleges, and are committed to building out those programs. But wide array of programs offered at our community colleges for the adult learner who's looking to upskill.
Michelle,
yeah,
and
you,
I don't mean to put Aaron,
sure.
I don't mean to put Aaron on the spot here, but I also know that a focus of the CCOG program has also been bringing back some of our adult learners who may also need some assistance financially as well, Aaron, if I'm not mistaken. So that could be also an opportunity should some need some financial assistance as well.
Yeah, so community college now is tuition and fee free for individuals and households earning less than $65,000 adjusted gross income. So any individual in those households could take 2 classes at a community college or more for free. And while all of our credit and non-credit programs all have a wide array of offerings in the tech space. So you certainly could go and enroll at a community college in a credit program, take a couple of classes in technology, and get on your way to a better career, accumulate credits that might allow you to get an associate's degree or move on to a bachelor's degree. But yeah, there's a wide array of opportunities now. And we are working to build partnerships with New Jersey's largest employers. We have a great partnership with RWJ Barnabas Health to help their entry-level employees get into associate's degree programs. and to obtain better jobs and move up the career ladder. So we are committed to finding creative partnerships to open up more doors of opportunity for more New Jerseyans. Thanks, Chrissy.
She threw you a nice softball there.
She did. Thank you, Chrissy.
I have one for you as well. I think this is, an awful lot of times, and speaking as an older worker, I've got to say, a lot of us look at ourselves and with a negative light, or in a negative light, that we're, changing careers and, perhaps, buying into some of the age discrimination type of myths that we hear in the workplace. And I would just consider, the advice that I would give to older women who want to go into tech would be to look at what you have and what skills you have. And one of the skills that you have uniquely is experience. So if you're coming into the tech world through healthcare, you could be a business process analyst in the healthcare environment, because you speak the business process. So use your assets and think about your assets. I would say that would be the best way to do it. And then you can, at the same time, you can hone your skills at community college, online, through an apprenticeship, or wherever.
Leslie, that's such an excellent point. We talk oftentimes about when women stepped out of their career path, perhaps to, spend time at home with their children, and they come back and they say, how do I get back in? I can't put on my resume that I was like taking care of kids for like 10 years. And then I say to them, well, during that time, what did you really do? And you come to learn, right? How many women were like the treasurer of the PTA and managing money, and like these innate and inert skills that aren't front and center because they're just things we do each and every day, to the term experience, and then really elevating that, to show your skill set versus a job you had. And I think that's a real key point in job seeking, right? Is highlight your skill set and then let your jobs come from there. But Leslie, I want to keep you on the spotlight here for 1 minute because of the research that you do. We had a question from Chaya. Do you see any increase in girls or women opting into tech programs in recent years, especially in technology, because of technology becoming front and center of every business during this pandemic? Is there any data on that right now? So not what's necessarily available, but that women are actually stepping in.
Into the jobs, I might have that information. I can tell you, looking at this information for probably over 10 years, that we've moved the needle, but not nearly enough. I think the numbers used to be more in line with 90 to 10, as opposed to 80 to 20, which is what we are now. It's still not enough. In terms of whether women or girls are enrolling in STEM programs or just tech programs, I wonder whether we have that data, and that's an excellent question. I'm sorry that I don't have the answer at my fingertips, but I do know where I can get it.
I'm sorry if I gave you more work to do. In the spirit of build it, but will they come, right? How do we inspire and empower the next generation worker at any age, again, into this space? And there was one observation, and I would say it's to both Judy and Aaron, your alumni network, right? Again, constant state of disruption, and knowing that you trained folks at one specific myopic point in time for one skill, knowing that they went out and even a year, 2, 3, 5 years later, what's required of them is different. How do you utilize perhaps those networks, or how do we, again, get out there to the workforce that honestly, unprecedentedly is sitting on the sidelines right now, saying, I'm just not ready to come back yet?
Yeah, I'll jump in and say, certainly from the secondary career and technical education perspective, our schools do leverage their alumni networks. And Michelle, I think you alluded to it earlier, the importance of mentors, both female mentors for girls in technology, and also, Black and Latinx mentors for students from those communities. It's really important for students and, potential workers looking to get back into the field to see and understand that there are people like me who have these jobs and are really successful. That's the first step to being able to envision yourself in that type of position. The other thing that's really critical, and it's certainly a challenge for our schools at the high school level, is getting teachers with industry experience to train that next generation. And, I'm not sure if that's also a problem at the collegiate level, but it certainly is. And again, particularly for young women and for minorities, seeing a teacher that looks like me is really inspiring and empowering in terms of being able to see yourself on that kind of career trajectory.
That's an excellent point. And we hear that all the time, no matter what the industry may be, right? Children and young people can only envision themselves in something that they see other people in. And building the educational aspect of this is yet just another challenge that we can't ignore and has to be part of this. Aaron, I don't know if you wanted to add anything about, that attraction more than what Judy may have said, or the alumni network, before I go on to another question.
Well, I think we just pride ourselves on being community colleges and the partnerships that we've built and continue to build. I think it's safe to say that probably close to 2 million New Jerseyans attended a community college at some point in their life. And that's an important network for us, both to get intelligence on the changing needs of the economy, but also as a way to bring more people back when they need that upskilling and to communicate with them. So yeah, I think there's power in numbers, there's power in networks, and we're going to continue to build that out.
Thanks.
If you don't mind my just hopping in really quick.
Please do, Leslie.
Yeah, I think, Michelle, the kinds of things that really inspire people, let alone young women, are the kinds of things that the kind of thing that Beth shared with us, how she got excited about tech and what excites her, and speaking with passion about what excites her. I think my work abuts technology, and I have been doing some work with digital platforms. I think one of the things that really inspires me, aside from Beth herself, is problem solving. And, if I could get in front of a group of teenage young women, I'm sure that I could light a fire and say, you can solve problems by doing data analysis and getting involved in tech. So I would say speak from your heart. And reach out. Those of you who are already in the field, definitely, that's what's going to bring new people in.
Thank you, Leslie. There's a boatload of resources that have been put up in the chat. Please download the links or copy the chat. I know this is being recorded, but those links are to really significant information for everyone watching. The last question I want to pose, and this is so apt that it comes from a student, and this really spells a lot of it, because we had a few questions that said, what's going on in our schools? It's like chicken and egg. There's so much for them to do. How do they get all this on the curriculum? But this student asks, I saw many students who already graduated from a 4-year college, but still had to spend a lot of money on more practical and hands-on programs like boot camps, online courses. They're all smart and hardworking students. What do you think about this? And we all believe school would help us to prepare our skills for the real industrial jobs, but sometimes it's not good enough. What do you think is the problem? My gosh, she or he sums it up incredibly right there of the conflict of these challenges. But I would like to know if someone would like to, offer up how you're trying right now to infuse more in the educational piece to avoid this need for training afterward. Again, maybe Aaron and Judy lead up, and Leslie, you may want to finish up on that.
Yeah, so it's a really excellent question. So I mentioned our Pathway to Career Opportunities initiative. And so we're bringing together industry leaders to guide our work, working with Leslie and her team to get cutting edge information on the changing needs, and then to put that in the hands of educational institutions by creating ecosystems to bring high schools, colleges, community colleges, 4-year colleges together to share information and really to highlight the need to build these new career pathways so that we don't have people who have to come back and get reskilled. So we're committed to doing that work. The second, I know it was in the chat a number of times, the importance of internships and work-based learning, experiential learning is critical. So Michelle, I echo your comment there. That is so important, and our colleges are committed and are all working to find more work opportunities for their students, because we have found from our experience that students who are putting their skills to work in the job make better decisions about the courses that they want to take. They're more likely to graduate, they're more likely to be engaged, and they're more likely to end up with the skills and the connections that get them a good career path. So work-based learning is a major priority for our community colleges.
Thanks so much, Aaron. In this, in the spirit of, yeah, I see everybody ready to jump. I have to be honest to our time though, because this was such a dynamic discussion. We whipped through our 45 minutes. I want to thank this awesome panelists, because as you can see, we could talk about this for hours and we could continue to problem solve, but this is what we are doing. Everyone at this table right here is part of a collaborative right now, addressing exactly the types of gaps and needs that we discussed today. So come along on the ride with us. Keep your eye out for all these resources. Again, SheTek, thank you for what you are doing to be a gap filler and bridge right now and bringing women back into this important space. Let's have a great round of applause for our panelists today.